all of the YouTubers that you watch, all of the filmmakers that you watch, like they all sucked in the beginning. Everyone sucked.
Yeah.
We all were like once like young little grasshoppers, and you have to almost have that radical confidence in yourself of like one day this is going to be a thing. Because if you don't treat it like a thing, it'll never be a thing.
Welcome back to another episode of the Rough Cut Club. I am your host, Joey Nkotra, here yet again, lone wolf in it without my amazing co-host, Shane Reitzammer. Shane is at home being an amazing dad to his newborn, beautiful baby, which we are super excited for him and pumped for him. But while I am here picking up his slack, like he has nothing else better to do other than be a new dad, we are super excited to bring on a heavy hitter guest today that goes by the name of B. Biggie. We are welcoming to the show for the very first time the creator coach, Mr. Brayden Figueroa. I wish I could roll my R.
Let's go.
Figueroa.
Let's go.
I can't roll my R's, dog. But
welcome to be here.
Yeah, dog. Welcome to the show, man. I have been a fan of yours online from afar, from the great state of Texas, for a while now, and seen you crushing it on the online space. And so excited to have you on the show today and bless us with your presence, man.
Let's go. I'm as stoked to be here. I just finished a podcast last night, so I got some experience doing this. We've done 81 podcasts.
81, now. Dog. You got me beat, man. What? Just out of curiosity, when did y'all start? Are y'all dropping weekly?
We are dropping weekly. So we took a month off after our first season ended, just so we could bank some episodes, but we've been back strong for season 2. We haven't missed a week, and we are going strong. It's difficult, I'm sure, as you know, to get a podcast out every single week, but somehow we managed to make it happen.
Yeah, dude, it is, for those on the other end of this, like who have not tried it, it is a grind, and like just like the prep that goes into like the preparation for the interviews, to actually spending the time with the guests and the emails and the marketing, the cutting the content up. It is a full-time job. And so I have respect for you, my friend, just for running the podcast and getting 81 episodes out, man. Congrats.
Let's go. Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm very excited to hop on this.
Dude, and just to kick it off, man, like for those who are listening here, like tell me a little bit about the podcast that you have and that you've been running.
Yeah, absolutely. So we created this podcast basically for the younger creative versions of ourselves. I felt like there wasn't a podcast in the space that was helpful to creatives necessarily. I just didn't think that was really a thing. There was one podcast that I thought that was doing a solid job, Black with No Cream. They were like one of the only ones in the whole space. And I just felt like there was a gap there that needed to be filled. And so I did a podcast before the 505 podcast with an old business partner. And I think we did like 50 or 60 episodes. And then we ended up splitting up. And when I moved out to LA, I met Costas and we were living together. And I'm like, dude, we should do a podcast that really just helps like younger versions of us. Cause I felt like the space is still very gatekeepy. People aren't willing to help one another, and there's room for everybody to eat. There's enough brands to go around. There's enough creative jobs to go around. And I think that, if you're not getting the jobs that you want, you're not looking hard enough, because they're out there and people are willing and able to pay solid money to create content, both remote and both in person. So hopefully we can bring light to ways that we're making money, ways that, brands are getting in touch with us, and just show so you don't make the same mistakes that we did, because there's a lot of mistakes to be made. And I think that's realistically the best way to learn, is to make mistakes. But hopefully we can expedite you a few years of time and just give you the blueprint for what worked for us and get you off to a much hotter start than what we had to work with.
Dude, I love that so much, man. Well, shout out to the 505 it's called the 505 podcast, right?
The 505 podcast. Yeah. I'm wearing the hat.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Got to represent, man. Well, shout out 505. Make sure to go give them a follow and check out their podcast as well. Doing super dope things, and in a similar way, like teaching, what we do here is teach the art and business of filmmaking, and, in a lot of ways doing the same exact thing. And so I think it's such a cool time for content creators to just trying to be pursuing the craft right now, because growing up, even several years ago, like 5, 6, 7 years ago, like the same educational opportunities to learn online from people who actually have careers didn't exist like it does today. And so
Non-existent.
it's definitely something to take advantage of and to learn, so you can learn the game and level up in the career. So
Yeah,
dig it, brother.
absolutely.
Well,
I couldn't
bro,
agree more.
before the podcast started, take me back to your early days getting into filmmaking. I want to hear about like your journey and how you got into filmmaking, and then tell me a little bit about what you're doing today.
Absolutely. So I went to school at the University of Oregon. I'm from Southern California originally, and my mom kind of forced me to go off to school. I had a job lined up to kind of take over the family business. So they race horses for a living. And when my grandpa had passed away, I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to graduate high school and I'll immediately hop into this career, and like no one can tell me any different. And she literally forced me to go off to school. She was like, you have to go, you have to graduate. And that's like the end all be all. Like, you're going to go off to school. So you better pick somewhere that's fun. And I ended up picking Oregon, not really super ecstatic about picking Oregon because it was raining when I went there to visit. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do this whole like rain thing. Coming from living in Southern California my whole life, we're very spoiled, but it ended up being the best 4 years of my life. I had a ton of fun. And after my freshman year of college, towards the end, I was just fascinated with YouTube. I was watching so much YouTube every single day. I can credit YouTube for teaching me like a ton of life skills. I learned how to drive stick shift on YouTube. I learned a lot of stuff about the horse racing industry, funny enough, but just everything is on YouTube. If you want to find something, you can find out and be an expert in a pretty short amount of time. Like I could sit and watch 10 hours of YouTube, and I'm like, I'm pretty well versed on this topic now to be able to talk about it. And so I started finding these fitness YouTubers because in high school was very small. I think I graduated high school at like 130 pounds. I was wrestling the entire, my whole time in high school. And so I wanted to, get fit and get in shape. And so I started watching YouTube videos, and I found all these super helpful workout videos. And so these guys who I never knew and never have spoken to were teaching me, how to get fit and different things I should be eating and other things that I could use to lift and get bigger faster. And so in those 2 months leading up to school, I think I gained like 45 pounds. And so I was quite ripped going into freshman year of college from my like very skinny, scrawny self. And I just became infatuated with like the idea that, man, like these the random people all over the world are like posting videos to this platform, and we can just watch them and like learn from them about anything, whether it be cars, fitness, cameras, Legos. There's a group for everybody. There's a tribe for every single person, plants, whatever, doesn't matter. Like there's someone out there making videos about the specific topic. And I stumbled upon a guy named Christian Guzman who was doing fitness stuff, as well as he was building a gym and very entrepreneurial. And I just resonated a lot with the messaging and what he was putting out. And I'm like, I don't really know what I'm doing right now, but I want to switch. I want to figure out how I can do something that has the camera in it. And at the same time, I found Casey Neistat. A friend had introduced me to him. This was freshman year of college, so 2015. And I'm like, dude, I'm trying to be a vet. I'm over here failing my biology and my chemistry classes, and this shit sucks. I need to figure out a way to do what Casey Neistat is doing. That was the goal. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to figure out how to make videos for a living and figure out how to get brands to pay me for it. And I got a Canon T5i that spring term of college, and it just opened up like the world. I was like, holy crap. People are, seeing these videos. I was making them all on YouTube, so like long form fitness type of vlogs. And every single time I'm just getting better. Like I can see the videos getting better every time I step behind Final Cut Pro at the time. And no one's teaching me how to do this stuff. I'm just learning on the fly by watching videos of Casey's and figuring out how the heck is he cutting 4 different times when he walks into the convenience store? Like it didn't make sense. I'm
Right.
like, doesn't make sense. How is this happening? How is he able to get all these different shots? And then I started to watch movies, and I'm looking at them through a different lens now. Instead of just being a viewer, I'm trying to analytically break down everything that's happening. Like, where is the camera? Where are the lights at? What kind of audio is being used here? What kind of music? And why does this make me feel a certain way? And did that on YouTube too. So I would download people's videos, I would put them in Premiere, I'd slow them down to a quarter speed, and then I would figure out exactly how they're making all of these cuts and like what drew me to these specific fitness people's videos and why Casey's videos were good. And it dramatically made me better faster. Like I was making something every single day for, I was in class cutting videos, I would go home, cut videos, then we go party, and then I come back from the party and cut more videos. And none of them were good, but it was just the fact that I was practicing and exponentially getting better because I was spending like hundreds of hours of time behind Premiere Pro and out shooting. I got way better at editing faster because I was doing that way more than I was shooting. And then I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, why are my video, like, what are they missing? And it's just, I sucked at shooting. I was pretty good at editing, but I had neglected actually learning all of the settings. And so I was kind of reverse engineered how to be a video producer. So I was good at editing and I could tell you what was wrong with stuff, but I couldn't go like execute it in the field. And then as of these last, 2-3 years, I've dove deep into how to become a better shooter, how to become a better cinematographer, and just how to get better shots overall. And currently right now I work for the Los Angeles Lakers. I produce a lot of the video content that you see on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And YouTube. And it's just taught me, I've had a camera in my hand damn near every day for the last like 3 years. So when you do that, you get better at finding frames and just angles and figuring out, okay, if I'm shooting the same thing, how do I make this more interesting to someone that's seen basketball played 1,000 times? And I personally am horrible at basketball. And so I think I look at it at a different lens. I was very athletic growing up, played a bunch of different sports, but never played basketball. And so I think I do look at basketball a little bit differently because I never was actually like on the court playing. And I just want to make the best possible stuff, no matter if it's, a small ad for a mom and pop shop or for the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm taking the same intensity of shooting something at the highest level to shooting something small. And like when I was starting out, I still thought like 1 million people are going to watch this. That's how I like thought about these little small videos, even though no one saw them, they didn't matter. I was pretending in my brain that millions of people were watching them. And now millions of people watch my videos every week, which is kind of weird to think about. Like actually millions of people are watching them every week. So it's kind of crazy. And I love getting to say that I love what I do. I enjoy what I do. I think that, work is low key 50-60% of your life. You might as well fuck with it. You might as well enjoy what you're doing. I think life's a little too short to hate your job. And so I'm grateful that in college, I said like, you know what, this vet route, I was going to school to be a vet. I'm like, this is not for me. Guaranteed job out of school, guaranteed high paying salary. And I was like, I had connections in the field, guaranteed job. And that's hard to say when you come out of school, especially now. And yeah, I was like, I'm going to go off on my own. I'm not going to have one connection in the space. I'm just going to figure it out as I go. And I'm so happy that I just never looked back and I just kept going.
Dude, I am so in love with your story and your journey. That is super inspiring. I think that as I was listening to that, a couple of things I want to pick apart from it. But one, what's hilarious is that the last episode that we did, the guy before started with a T5i. So my very first camera was a T5i. We were both inspired by Casey Neistat to get our start in the industry. Like growing up during his golden era of vlogging was like a game changer for filmmaking. And I've said it before, but we got to get Casey on the pods. Anybody knows Casey? Shout out Casey. We got to get him on the episode. But
let me send him a text. We'll figure that out.
Yeah. But dude, I love even like what you said too about reverse engineering how films are made, because when you take, like, I've illegally downloaded films, right, or like gone to YouTube and like then you throw the film into Premiere and then like you slow it down and you really start to analyze like how a film was made. You really start to learn the pre-production, producing, the lighting. You get to really study the intricacies of it. And so I love that was a part of your workflow and studying the craft to figure out, how to hone your craft. You know what I mean? And then even the piece too on, now you're creating for millions of people. And I think there's like a musical quote, right, where it's like you perform in your room so that you can perform as if you're performing to a million people. So, and then when you get on
Absolutely.
stage, you perform to a million people as if you're performing alone in your room. And I think the same thing goes for video, where it's like you have to create content as if a million people are going to be watching what you do. So that way you get to the point to where you can create content that millions of people are going to watch. So dude, I love all of that.
Yeah, and I think in the beginning, for all of the YouTubers that you watch, all of the filmmakers that you watch, like they all sucked in the beginning. Everyone sucked.
Yeah.
We all were like once like young little grasshoppers, and you have to almost have that radical confidence in yourself of like one day this is going to be a thing. Because if you don't treat it like a thing, it'll never be a thing.
Right.
And even when I was making YouTube videos, I remember, people are always going to poke fun at you like, oh, you're making those videos, like 10 people are going to watch them. Like, yeah, but now like hundreds of thousands of people watch them every week, and that's amazing to think about. But it's only because I never stopped. Not like, those same videos in the beginning could have had, like a larger amount of people watching them, but it didn't matter. It's only that I'm continuing to get better, practicing telling stories and connecting with the people who do care about them. Even though there's 10 people, that are watching them, I'm like talking with these 10 people and forming relationships with them. And now that like I don't have a huge group of people that's like watch my stuff, but the people that do watch my stuff, I know most of them. I've talked to a lot of them. I respond back to the comments. I'm seeing what people are saying. And I don't think enough people take that into account as they rise or as they're growing their page. Like those people, the reason you're able to do all the things that you're doing now is because a lot of those people supported you and cared about the stuff you were doing. And I think people forget about that a lot, but it's amazing to see like, what's possible if you just continue to press on.
I love it, man. It's consistency over intensity. You know what I mean? You got to be consistent and show up every single day and push your own craft. And dude, I love that. But I want to hear how the Los Angeles Lakers deal happened, because I think that's a pretty cool title to be the content creator, video producer for the Los Angeles Lakers. So tell me how that happened for you, man.
Yeah, I was living out in Indonesia. I was living in Bali for 3 months after school. After I graduated, I just moved out there. I was like, I want to figure out a way to make money living abroad. I had read Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek, and I was just infatuated with this idea of living outside of the US but making US money. And I'm like, okay, well, let me go over here. It's the most beautiful place in the world. Let me see if I can figure out a way to make, money from US based brands. And we had done a job right before we went out there, and it was my biggest job to date. I think it was just shy of 10,000. I'm like, I feel like a millionaire right now. I'm going from no money in my account to potentially like $10,000. This is crazy. And we go out there with these 5 videos to edit, and we ran out of money pretty quick. I personally ran out of money pretty fast. And I'm like, holy shit, I need to figure out a way to like make consistent income. Didn't have any retainer clients lined up. We had done like 2 jobs out while we were out in Bali, and for Balinese based brands. And I'm like, okay, I got to go back home. I'm living at my parents' house, and I'm emailing hundreds of brands every day on LinkedIn for full-time job offers. And every time I get on the phone with them, I'm like pitching them my company. I'm like, hey, listen, I know you have a full-time job. Not interested in that. Would you be interested in hiring my company? Every single one said no. And I remember getting on the phone with this one company. It was like a real estate firm. And the girl's like, yeah, could you just like break down what a funnel and marketing is? And she's like, just like top of funnel content. I'm like, top of funnel is like the big stuff, right? Like I'm just like bullshitting my way through all of these interviews. I don't know anything about what they're talking about in marketing land. And so I finally one day see this Lakers job open up, and I'm like, okay, I could be down to try to actually get a full-time job. I had the mindset. I told like everyone when you're graduating is like trying to hunt for jobs. People are super anxious. Could not have had less of a care in the world. Like I just was not interested in working for somebody else. I never wanted to work for somebody else. I come from a very entrepreneurial family, and I'm like, yeah, working for people, not in my deck of cards. And I saw the job open up, and I had called my cousin, who's also he owns an ad agency out from and based out of Salt Lake. And I'm like, do you think I should do this? Should I try to do this? And he's like, I don't think there could be, a better opportunity than working for the third biggest brand in sports in the whole world. Like, you're going to learn so much. You're going to be around talented people, and you'll actually understand what it's like to run a business that generates billions of dollars from being inside of it. And I'm like, okay, you're right. Let me, sack up a little bit of my ego and let me go learn, because at the end of the day, I really didn't know much. I was just like bootstrapping everything. And I applied via LinkedIn, and I didn't hear back for a while. It was a long process. And I had bought LinkedIn Premium just to see how many people had applied, and there was already tons of people that applied. And like on the map, it'll show like the US map. It was just lit up. The whole damn map was lit up with people that had applied to it. So I'm like, okay, dang, like this is going to be tough, but if I can get someone on the phone with me, I'm good enough at selling myself that I think that I can like get this job. And I thought I had an interesting enough story saying like, yeah, I said, I'm opening up a company after school. I'm not going to get a job, and I'm going to move to Bali, and I'm going to try and figure this stuff out. So interesting enough story to captivate you to be like, let's listen to what the crazy kid, has to say. And I came in with the mindset when I got that first interview that I'm willing to do anything. I'm willing to do everything. If you need me to log footage, I'll log footage. I'm not above any job that is like that you're going to throw at me. And they needed help. They only had 2 people that were video people when I got there. So they were low key drowning. They're just there needs to be at least 3 people doing video. And so I got in and, was just an immediate help. I tried to just do anything and everything that they asked of me, and the job grew significantly. In the beginning, I was just doing whatever they needed, and by the end of that year, I was working all the games with them, shooting the games, and just made room for myself in that space, because I exponentially got better then as well, because you come from college, and I low-key was shooting every single day and editing every single day, but you maybe on a Sunday we're not shooting, and like it turned into just shooting every day and filming every day and editing every day, and you're around people that are better than you and people that know more than you. And I was just a sponge, asking every single person questions, going home watching YouTube videos. I'm still making personal content for myself as well at the same time as doing the job, which is what I still do now. And it's been the most fun experience I could have ever asked for. I've been blessed to be with this amazing team, won a championship in 2020? Yeah, 2020 season, the bubble season. Have an NBA championship ring, which is crazy to think about. And I'm blessed to work with like amazingly talented people every single day and get to tell the story of one of the most historic teams in the entire world. And I'm just blessed to be able to say that.
Bro, I am inspired by your story. And I think the word that comes to mind, like as you've been talking just for this short amount of time, is just hustle. Like you have the grit and the tenacity to do what it takes. And like at the end of the day, we are all artists trying to make art for a living, make a comfortable living. But there's a lot of competition in that arena. And I love that you showed up every single day. You broke down the content, like you did the work and didn't take shortcuts. And I think just even as a filmmaker myself, like just hearing the stories of people that did, whatever it took to get to, wherever they wanted to be is something that like, it's just cool to hear that from other creators, to see people who have done it before. So kudos to you, man. But I don't think I've ever shared this before, but the very first job that I ever applied for after I graduated film school was the creative video producer for the Dallas Mavericks. And it was very similar, where it was like a highly sought after role. And I actually made it all the way, I think, into either like the top 3 or the top 5 candidates. And they said that I was too young and inexperienced for the job. And they were right. Like I was new out the gate. Like I was shooting my shot. I made it up pretty far, but I wasn't ready for the role at the time. But the world of doing creative filmmaking in sports is something that I feel like, even based on the map lighting up when you looked at everyone there, like it's highly sought after. And so what advice do you have for people who are trying to get into the world of creative sports to to get a foot in the door and start actually shooting creative content and not just like broadcast cameras for, the games? Like, how can someone get into the world of doing creative filmmaking for sports companies?
A lot of the time it comes down to what you have at your disposal for access. So, and people usually just aren't willing to try. I tell a lot of people this, even if you're out of, doesn't matter if you're 40 or 18. If you're 18, it's easier because you're going to be in high school probably, and you'll have direct access to shoot your high school sports. If you're out of school though, it's not difficult to get a media credential to shoot high school basketball or high school football or high school soccer or any of the sports that tennis in a high school does not get coverage. So if you're willing to, you can, potentially shoot one of the top tennis teams in your state, or like the top water polo team, like whatever. Like a lot of the people are thinking like, oh, it's only basketball and football. There's so many other amazing sports that need coverage that don't get coverage. And they're going to jump when you say, hey, I'd love to come shoot a game. They're like, yes, you're absolutely able to come shoot a game, because those sports don't get as much coverage as basketball and football, And I think about, one, it's the access. So once you have access, okay, great. We can shoot the sport. We can film the sport. We can start to get better that way. Then it comes down to figuring out what brands you want to align with. So if your videos have, especially now, what I see is like effects galore. The videos look pretty poor at the lower level and the high school level because they're just using 4,000 different effects. And it's like, stop. Like, just try to make a really pretty video with great storytelling and a good color grade, and then start to sprinkle in the effects after you have, a beautiful cut video. Everything's in focus. There's good story. You're getting different angles, different shot variety. Then you can start to pepper in the other stuff. I think people flip it and they're like, oh, I'm trying to be hype. And there's like, spaceship flying through and shit. And it just ends up ruining the video rather than like adding to it. And it's a numbers game. If you make 1,000 videos, you will get dramatically better. Most people are making, one thing a week. And you're just prolonging the process of you getting better at the thing. It's just like a sport. I was an athlete my whole life. I took the same approach to baseball and wrestling and all the other things that we did to filmmaking. So I was like, if I do this every day, I'm going to get better at it, exponentially better. I would like drill myself. I would get, I'd see an effect and I would go practice the effect, and I'd try to do it without watching the tutorial. And then the next day I would time myself and see how long it took me to do the effect. And I just took the same approach, like, okay, let's do drills. Today you got to cut this video in 15 minutes. And it ended up helping because then my boss at the time when I was working for Oregon for the Ducks, he would give me crazy deadlines. He'd be like, Fig, you got 24 minutes to go out and get a bunch of videos of players dancing and then go cut it before the kick. I'm like, dude, what? I can't guarantee that they're going to be dancing. And he'd be like, figure it out. And I'm like, okay, you're right. Yeah, I'll figure it out. And so I get out there and be like, yo, dance for the camera. Like, please help me or I'm not going to get this video up, And I would just like play those little mental games with myself, and they made me so much better, even though like at the end of it's not like no one's dying. We're not at a hospital. It's just like a sports video. But that's how I would take that intensity to another level and just try to make myself better and try to push myself to get better. And I don't think enough people do that. Like, I'm very competitive. And so that in my brain, like, is forcing me to try to like elevate myself to this different level of, just trying to get better every single time you make a video. And I think that if you watch a video and you post it and 2 weeks from then, you don't have any critiques for yourself, you're not getting better. You should always be posting something and be able to look at it in a month or in a few weeks and be like, oh, dude, the color on this shot or the sound here could have been better. This cut could have been better. That's how you kind of know that you're progressing and that you're like analyzing your stuff. You shouldn't just post it and let it go and be like, okay, done. Like, we'll move on to the next thing. That's how I think I can continuously try to get a little bit better. Because once you've done it for 10 years, you're not going to get exponentially better week by week or month by month. You just get like maybe this much better. But if you do that every month for the year, then we got like that much better, and we can continue to stack those days. But access, consistency, and then just continuing to do it over and over again. I think people look at it as consistency as like, oh, I have to be consistent. It's part of the job description if you want to get good at the thing. It's not an if or a want, it's a non-negotiable. It has to be done. If you want to build your personal brand, you can't, oh, I have to be consistent. No. If I want to build my personal brand, I must be consistent. Not that I should do this thing, and nothing will happen if you don't do it consistently, you know?
Dude, yeah. That is phenomenal. And I love the concept of treating filmmaking like a sport that you train for. Like you find the effect and you go out and you execute it, and you show up and you do the reps and you break it apart. And it's like, if you look at what any successful athlete does and what they do, it's like they train. And not just when they have a game, not just when they get booked a gig. It's like they're going out and they're making passion projects to hone their craft. They're reading, in their downtime. They're paying money to take courses and classes. And the people that really want to get ahead treat filmmaking like a sport, and they train for it, and they put the reps in, dude. And I love that concept. You said something earlier I want to go back to, and it's like you never wanted to work for somebody else before you got hired on with the Lakers. And I think that is something that I don't know if everybody else in the world struggles with it, but it's something that I would say that I like. Part of my identity is almost wrapped up in me being an entrepreneur and like this self-made filmmaker or something like that. You know what I mean? So how do you juggle the idea of you being like an entrepreneur and having your own company and, your own production, whatever, and also getting a really sweet once in a lifetime opportunity to be employed as a filmmaker? How do you see that and work through that in your mind?
Yeah, I think that for anyone out there who might be entrepreneurial, or maybe you're just beginning in your career, I don't think you could do a better thing than get a job at a company that is successful, because then you can learn how it works from the inside out. You can learn how it makes revenue. You can learn, how the different departments communicate. What do they do badly? Every company does something bad. Everyone. There's a portion of the company that doesn't correctly function, and that like slows down a process for something else in the company. It could make tons and tons of money. Every person that I've talked to that has a job, something irks them that could be like fixed, that's like a systemic issue that, oh, this is how we've done it or whatever. So you can learn from them, and either if you're high enough up, give recommendations for how you can change stuff. Like at least with us, every time we have a shoot, we try to make it better the next time. Like, oh, maybe we say this and that will get us like this better answer, or we should set up this way because that way, we can move to photo quicker. And I think really good teams are doing that, and their communication is good. The worst thing you could do is finish something and it go like semi okay, and then be like, okay, we'll just move on. We got the same shit, same time again next week. And that's how brands continue to elevate themselves, as they're trying to make things better. And I look at like a company like the Lakers, who's rooted in excellence and is rooted in just winning and greatness. And they're always trying to get better. It's what they do very well, whether it's from a player standpoint, whether it's from an organization standpoint, or from a community standpoint. They're just trying to do it bigger and better. And I think that we can all take something from a brand like that and learn from what they're doing. Whether you want to go, you want to open up your own ad agency. Well, the best thing you could probably do is go work at one of the biggest ad firms in the world and learn what they're doing and take it, and then eventually go in and open up, your own thing. And at the end of the day, we all have stuff to learn. As much as I think that like I know a lot about filmmaking, I still know nothing in the grand scheme of things. I've done it for 10 years, but every time I go on set, or every time we have a shoot, or every time I film a game, I'll see something, I'm like, dang, I could do that better next time. Or if I miss a shot, I'm a pulling focus machine. I can still miss. Pisses me off beyond belief. And I'm like, I in my head, I'm like, I have this next year, I'm making a goal for myself to never miss like a play of the game. I'm like, that's what I'm gonna try to do. And it's like psychopathic and not possible, but I'm going to try to do that. and I'm for sure going to get better stuff. And just to try to hold myself to this ridiculous standard of like, don't miss a shot, like do not miss a shot, which is pretty impossible when you're flipping content mid game during the actual game. But I'm going to try to do that, and we'll see. Like, I'm for sure going to get better.
Shoot a F-22,
So
my dog. Shoot a F-22.
No. Got to make it as difficult as I can on myself. Right. So yeah, just trying to get the best possible ball track and trying to get the best possible frames. Like, I just want to see how far and hard I can push myself. I know I went on a little bit of a tangent away from your question, but
nah, dude, I love that you just brought up, like, from everything that you've said this whole episode, it's like, be a student of the game, be a student of the game, be a student of the game. Like, can't drive it home long enough. Like, the hours that I put in editing from like 2 a.m. to like 6 a.m. Like throughout all of my early years when I first got a camera are the years that I built my career on. Like, those are I should say the hours that I built my career on. Like the rough times that you didn't want to show up, but like you got the edits done, like you put in the work. Those are the times that you prepare for, to when opportunity comes, you're ready to do what it takes to, you know, climb to that next point in your artistic career. And so I just love the student of the game mentality. Man, I didn't prep you on this beforehand, like, at all, but I'm curious. So like, as creatives, a lot of times, like the work that we do is so closely like tied to our happiness and fulfillment level. Like when you said you get pissed, like you missed like that shot and it wasn't in focus. Like, sometimes the happiness that we have in life is rooted in how well that we succeed in our craft and in our art. And so I'm curious how you balance like finding happiness and fulfillment from your art, but also not letting it destroy you at the same time. Like when you have those L's, or you miss that shot, or you don't land that client, like what can you say to people on just putting your happiness in the art that you make?
Yeah, and I've had friends that I've seen like come and go in the space because they couldn't handle feedback, or you know, their ego was just like a little too big. Yeah, it's a thing. It happens like all the time. I've had really talented people that I've worked with that are like, oh, they're doing something completely different because they just could not put that aside. But I think that at the end of the day, I'm just grateful to say that I get to use a camera for my job, and you can never take that away from me, that I get to wake up and wear sneakers and wear wide pants and wear a t-shirt to go do my job. And I get to work with really cool people who do amazing things and who are like some of the best at what they do in the whole world. And no matter if I miss a shot or if I lose a client gig, like, one, there will always be another client, no matter what. I've lost some insane deals in my day. I remember like even coming out of school, like I had this job that was like, I don't know, 25,000 a month that I had lost because I didn't price it at 15K a month. And I'm like, oh my God, like looking back at that, I was like just devastated. I'm like, dude, if you would have just said 15, I would have made this thing 15. Anyways, but you know, every time I get to live and I get to learn a little bit about these different jobs, and like everything kind of has like a little bit of a lesson to it. I was for sure biting off way more than I could chew when I was first out of college, and I sent off that bit. But you know, it at the end of the day, it's a blessing to be able to say that I'm a creative person who makes enough money to feel comfortable doing this living. People would die for that. So there's millions of people across the world that would die to say, I get to wake up and use a camera and that's like my job. Because that's all I wanted in college. I have to really remind myself that, because I can even get caught up in the comparison game of, I'm comparing myself to people that are the tip toppity 1% of our space, that are making millions of dollars doing the stuff, that are making blockbuster movies. Like, those are the people that in my head I'm like trying to be one day, you know? And it's easy to not just sit and relax and be like, you get to shoot like the best team in basketball on a nightly basis. That's crazy to say. There's only 7 cameras that are video cameras in the whole world that can say that they have shot the footage that I've shot and been in the spaces that I've been able to film. And so I'm grateful to say that, I get to wait. I'm like fired up to wake up every day and to get to use the camera. And like, not to say that some days aren't harder than others. I'm not like, not everything is rainbows and fairy dust, but I just have to remind myself that like, we're super lucky. Anyone who gets to use a camera, photo, video, or computer design, and you can do the thing that you thought that was impossible when you were younger, that's a crazy thing to be able to say. So just reminding yourself to pinch yourself and be grateful.
Yeah, it's so sick to look at a time in your life and realize that you're living a moment that you once prayed for, and be like, you used to wish for this thing, and you used to, just imagine seeing yourself living out this, reality, and then to fast forward a couple of years later and see yourself living this reality. It's a beautiful thing. I remember when I first started out just being like, man, I can't wait to shoot on my first Red camera. And like, it was like just this thing in my head for whatever reason. And it's like, now there's one sitting like right behind me.
I know. The first time you get to touch a Red, it's like,
it's a big deal, bro. It's like you realize like you're now in that moment that you once like longed for, and just like the sobering reminders of going back to like, man, I have come a long way, and like I'm still going, and at the end of the day, like finding the gratitude in the moment that you're in. And I think that's a beautiful reminder. So shout out to you for that. Dude, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the new SFX drop that you just had. Tell us a little bit about it, man.
Thank you. Absolutely. So I kept running into the same problem whenever I would cover a sports event, that they're blasting music every single time you cover a basketball game, an NFL game, soccer, music's playing of some sort, or there's something happening that ruins the audio, whether it's peaking too hot or it's just too loud in the arena, fans are screaming beyond belief and your mic just can't handle it. And I kept running into that, and people were messaging me all the time asking me how to fix this audio. How do I fix this? I'm like, damn, well, you're kind of shit out of luck, and you got to go find crappy, things on YouTube to use. And so we spent about 6 to 8 months, I believe, on the project, capturing one Foley sound. So we captured a bunch of Foley sounds that were in controlled spaces, whether it be basketball, football, baseball, and all kinds of different stuff. And you also have to capture a lot of that stuff outside, because it sounds really weird without like atmospheric sound, whether it just be like birds or wind. Obviously helps if you don't have like a bunch of parakeets in the corner in the tree, but you got to work with what you have. Then we hired an engineer, because you can only do so much by just trying to correct it yourself. These people, it's all they do. They're specialists at making sounds sound really good. So we hired this amazing engineer. His name's Dane. He's based out of Portland. And so Dane helped us with, I was like, I need hits, I need whooshes, and I need amazing risers, and I want them to be very unique to me. So I went out and found sounds that I enjoyed off of like different spots or different sounds I had purchased. I was like, I want this but deeper, or this but higher pitched and more intense. And so I was able to make over 160 sounds that I use all the time. I've like given them to all my friends, and I giggle because I see them in like videos for sports teams, or videos like my one roommate, he works for Fisher, the DJ, and I'll be watching like a Fisher edit, and it's like whoosh, I'm like, that's my sound, let's go. Like, that's
so sick.
Yeah, and so it's amazing to see all of the people that have been able to use them. And I just think about whenever you attempt to sell something to your audience or ever in general, if you lead with, does this help people and does it provide value, it'll sell every single time. And like, I have had no problem with anyone ever saying, oh, like, you're just trying to sell us shit. It's like, dude, if it provides value to you, no one's ever going to be like, yo, you're trying to be salesy, like you're trying to sell something. It's like, that's how we live off of selling things. That's how this entire country, it's how this entire economy runs. It's off of people selling stuff to us. And so I ended up making this awesome product, and I loved the feedback on it. And now we're working on a version 2 that's not even with sports. And I think especially with sounds, particularly, it's something where you never have all the sounds. And so like I've spent thousands of dollars on way worse sound effect packs, and I'm like, dude, if I could sell sound effects under $100 and have them be amazing, you full license, you can use them in whatever spot, that's a deal and a half, you know? So like they could use these in a Super Bowl spot if they want to. They don't have to pay me any other royalty fee. Not if you're a production house, but if you're a regular person, you can go use these in whatever, whatever you want.
Dude, so sick, man. I love your heart behind the product that you're making, and just making something that you want to use yourself. Like, that like when you are, making something that you would use, that other people are going to get use out of that as well. And so be sure
every time.
Yeah. So anyone listening to this, be sure to cop for sure. But I wanted to ask before I get you out of here, man.
You know what? I'll even link you a $10 off just for the people that have tuned in.
$10 off. $10 off.
I'll link it down below.
Promo code RoughCut.
Boom,
Code
done.
RoughCut. Love it.
It's in there.
Bro, so I've had this idea floating around in my mind for a while. Like selling products online as a filmmaker is a really hot topic, but it almost feels saturated right now. And like, what would you say to some, like, is it too late to drop, products online? Do you have to have a following? Do you have to just be crazy at running ads? Do you just make something that you believe in? Like, what are your thoughts on the online product drops for filmmakers right now?
I think it'll never be dead. There's always room in any market to make room, whether it be candy, whether it be filmmaking space, whether it be energy drinks, whether it be hydration drinks. If your idea is good enough and the marketing and the branding is good enough and you can talk to a specific demographic of people, there always will be room to sell your thing and to have success with it. As far as in this filmmaking space directly, you don't have to have a big audience to sell anything to. I remember in college I made like $1,500, which at the time was $1 million, selling LUTs, and I was like, oh my god, people will buy these. And I had maybe no people like following my stuff, and I just made something that I would use, that I was already using, and then people kept hitting me up, oh, what LUTs do you use? And I'm like, they're $20, would you like to buy them? And people purchase them. And so you always, before you ever sell a product, whether it's physical, whether it's digital, you need to ask people if it's something that would provide them with value. You never want to go make something and then just sell it and say like, oh, hey, I made this thing. No, even whether it's a course, whether it's a hat, like you want to talk about it, see if there's any demand for said thing. And if people are like, yes, like I don't have any good sound effects for my videos, and like I always have the same problem you're saying, great. There's 1,000 other people just like that are needing the thing. Advertising comes second. So what you can do is you can sell the thing to whether you have 500 people or 500,000 people, and then you can generate a little bit of capital, whether it's $100 or whether it's $100,000, and then you can begin to test ad creative. Something that I'm realizing with ad creative is it's just like, it's starting from square one again. You're testing, you're practicing, you're learning every time that you make an ad. It's never the ad, it's never the algorithm or the app. It's always your ad that sucks. It's never the algorithm or the app. You want your click-through rate to be good. And if you're not having a good click-through rate, there's something wrong with your hook. People are scrolling by. And I have to be, very honest with myself of like, this isn't a good ad. You have to remake it. So we've made, 10, like 20, 30, 40, 50 ads that are different types of creative, whether it be graphics, stills, videos. And so just test and learn. You're not going to make $1 million off of like the first thing that you sell. And I think a lot of people think that way. They're like, this is going to be the thing that gets me to leave my job. It's probably just going to be the thing to where you learn from it, and then you're able to make something better next time. And so like whether it's a course or sound effects, like the first time we made the sound effect pack, it took us 8 months. It's going to take me 3 weeks the next time I do it, because now I know how to do it. I know exactly how to make it. I know exactly the problems that we face, and I know how to get it to the sound engineer faster and better and give him exactly what he needs so he can make them even better. So you should always be reiterating things that you build, and then you can continue to sell them to people that are in your audience that will provide value, from that. And people will tell you if something sucks, and it's your job as a brand or as, the person making said thing to do right by the people that you're selling to. If you fucked up and you made something poor, you should refund them. You have to listen to the people that are buying your thing, and they'll give you testimonials too. I've had so many people that have just DM me, sound effects are amazing, I'm using them in all my videos. Perfect testimonial. Okay, 150 people that are doing this, great. That's going to make someone else buy now because they see that, oh, that actually worked for Tim, Billy, and Janice and, Jill, whatever. And so, yeah, there's always room for you to make a seat at the table.
I love the concept too of, the thing that you're doing right now or dropping isn't to make $1 million, but it is to give you the skills needed to go do it in less time with less effort on the next product or whatever it is that you're going and doing. I recently did a huge renovation in my house. Like everyone told me I was crazy for how big this renovation was going to be. And it took me 1.5 years to do it. And I turn around after that and then rebuilt from scratch a home in 8 months after that because of the skills that I learned in struggling through that first rehab. And so there's the idea that you take the knowledge and wisdom from what you're doing, and that knowledge of how to build a better ad is going to be way more valuable than just having made the perfect ad from the get-go. Like now you're going to actually have, something to A/B test with, and you're going to actually have experience, and you're going to know, why the account took so long to set up, and, the ads didn't drop like I wanted them to. And then, the demographic targeting and all this stuff that like you learn along the way that makes you a better person. And I think that even whether you're just making a film for the first time and it's like just getting through what you're doing, it builds the confidence in you to go and do it again and to do it with more experience under your belt. So I love that, brother. Cheers to you, man.
Amazing.
Well, bro, we got 5 questions that we like to ask every single one of our guests each time. So before we get you out of here, I got to ask you, what is one thing that you would do differently if you could go back and do it all again in your filmmaking career?
I would find people who I looked up to that I thought could, help me in the space. And I would ask them if I could pay them to mentor me. And that would dramatically expedite time. And I think you'd be surprised as to who would respond to you. Yeah. And a lot of people are willing to help you, so if someone says at the end of every video, DM me on IG with any questions, DM them, and see if they're actually about it.
I love that, dude. Yeah, the mentor thing is definitely like the cheat codes for how to grow, whether it's in your craft or your business, like way exponentially faster than you would if you're just even on YouTube University. So
definitely.
What excites you the most about the current film industry or market right now?
I think it's changing a lot. I think we're seeing a lot of change on the vertical side of things, which I think freaks out a lot of traditional filmmakers, but you either grow or die. So you got to understand that this is where everything is moving towards. And if you resent it, then a kid that's 19 is going to take your fucking job. So you got to be looking at what is occurring in front of you and seeing where the times are changing and how you can adapt. If you've been in the industry for 20 years and you're way better at it than the kid that's 18, but he's willing to use an iPhone, might beat you at some jobs. So something to think about.
So sick, dude. So sick, dude. I love it. Absolutely ruthless, but 100% accurate. What is one piece of advice you can give to filmmakers trying to grow in their craft or their business?
Yeah, one piece of advice for filmmakers looking to grow in their craft or their business. For business, I would say anytime that you have the opportunity to work with someone that isn't a friend of yours is worth it, in my opinion, when you're starting out. So whether if you set your price and you're like $1,000 and someone comes to you for $500, I would still do the job because you learn so much, you get more experience behind the camera, and then you pad your bank account to be able to invest back into yourself. And in filmmaking, shoot the passion projects and set deadlines for yourself. Not just, oh yeah, I'm going to shoot that one short film. Like, no, the short film needs to be done on June 25th and it needs to be turned around for V1 on July 15th or whatever. That's going to actually keep you accountable in setting those fake deadlines, whether it's social content, whether it's a short film, whether it's an ad with a friend. Like, that has to be a priority, not like, oh, we'll get to that. No, this is like a real job that's paying us money. That's how you have to treat it. Otherwise it won't get done.
It's beautiful, man. I rock with it. Where are we as an industry headed in filmmaking, and what should we be focusing on right now?
As much as I love wide video and I hate vertical video, you have to just look at where it's going. And instead of it being like the A unit is the big commercial spot and the B unit social, it's going to flip. It's going to be like directly all social. And I'm seeing it with brands. I'm like seeing it firsthand. And so you can either neglect it and lose work, or you can adapt and figure out how you can add people to your team that are going to be able to help execute on things like that and add it as a service. Because it's happening more and more where, you're seeing a iPhone video or, just go viral for a brand and it brings them in 7 figures of revenue. And so I think that I think we need to really be watching what's happening on TikTok, what's happening on Reels, what's happening, and where it's all about attention. It's all about where people are watching the stuff. So it doesn't matter what I think. If I think it should all be wide, if 95% of our nation or our world is watching it on the phone, it has to be vertical. So just try to be an early adopter of things that are unfolding in front of us, rather than, oh, I hate, because like it's easy to do that because it's new to us and it's different, and it's like those kids didn't have to work as hard as us, like they just get to use the iPhone. For sure, 100%, but it doesn't mean they won't take our jobs, and it doesn't mean there's not a room for them at the table with a huge company, right? Like I just saw a Hugo Boss campaign that was all done on a fucking GoPro. That's crazy.
Oh my gosh.
It's just ridiculous, And so like you have to take note of that stuff though, because you either are going to be, forgotten about. Obviously movies are always going to be a thing. I'm not like declining the movie industry. Like the wide movies will always be a thing. More so in the advertising space, I'm seeing a lot of change with that stuff.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm already starting to see, which you probably are aware of, but like traditional music videos are going away, and everything is moving to where like, oh, if you have this $20,000 budget for a music video, like how many reels could we create for $20,000 that get a way bigger reach at the end of the day than one video dropped on YouTube? And so it's already going away. And we're already heading towards it. So last question for you, brother. Who is one filmmaker that you admire and why?
One filmmaker that I admire, is a good friend of mine, Sam Newton. I think that he is absolutely killing the long form game on YouTube. He's going against the grain and like not going crazy with the TikTok stuff. And he's just like locked into his long form videos. And I watch all of them start to finish. I think he's an insane storyteller. And it's something that just continues to prove that like, while short form is there's always going to be room for people that are good at telling stories to be a thing. And I think long form is still king, whether it be podcast, YouTube, etc. I think the audience on a long form video, on a long form podcast matters so much more than someone that has, a great TikTok following, but nothing else besides those very short form videos. So he's someone that I look up to a lot. I think he's doing a lot of amazing things. So you should check out his work. Sam Newton on YouTube.
I'm pretty sure I've actually found him on Instagram a while back. I'm pretty sure I already follow him, but I definitely am not like connected with him. But yeah, I will definitely recircle back up and check him out, man. Dude, thank you so much for your time on the pod today, brother. You have been a joy to talk to, a breath of fresh air for sure, and grateful for all of the wisdom that you shared with our audience today, man. For those that want to get connected with you, what is the best way to get in touch?
B Figgy on everything. Instagram is where I'm the most active. So hit me, DM me on IG if you ever have any questions about anything. And yeah, we'll definitely get back to you.
Brayden, thank you so much for joining us today. Man, once again, it has been a pleasure, man. Thank you for your time. For everyone still listening, we appreciate you. Be sure to leave us a review, share this episode with a friend, and we will see you next time on the Rough Cut Club.
Peace.